What is good, y'all? Welcome back to Chris and Rock Productions. As always, I am Chris. Hope you're having a wonderful night. Today is September 13th. It is Wednesday night, and tomorrow is Thursday. And tomorrow is important because we finally get the first official trailer for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. On Sunday, they released the teaser to the trailer, which I did a reaction on, and I gave my thoughts on it. And today, actually, Entertainment Weekly released a long interview that they did with the director James Wan. So this article covers some of the things going on with Aquaman, where the first one left off. Some of the offset stuff that's going on with some of the actors, as well as just overall what to expect from this film. Letting you know right now, he does talk about some plot points in this film, but I don't think it's anything to worry about because I am positive that the trailer is going to talk about these plot points as well. But yeah, so I want to go through this article and I just want to just dissect it, just give my thoughts on it and everything that I think this movie's going to bring. And like I've mentioned before, this is my second most anticipated movie for the year. So I am just excited that we're finally getting some type of marketing for this movie. You know, Aquaman is officially Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is officially the shortest window between trailer and release date. So that's not something to scoff at. I wonder what the reason may be. Obviously, there has been a lot of delays, but I just want to go ahead and just go through this article. So first off, we see a great image of Arthur Curry and Orm, his brother. So after Aquaman, the first one, we see that Orm, Ocean Master, gets sent to prison, and right here they're together. So James Wan talks about why are they together, the reason behind it, and let's go ahead and get into that. So James Wan dives deep into Aquaman, the Lost Kingdom, and the DCU's changing tides. So we get some information on his thoughts on the DCU change with Peter Safran and James Gunn taking over. Peter Safran is the producer for this film. So yeah, let's just go ahead and go into this first article and we'll work our way down. So this has a star-studded cast, and it's obviously Jason Momoa, Nicole Kidman, Yahya Abdul-Mateen the second, and then we have Amber Heard. And when we'll get into the Amber Heard thing. He talk about that a little bit, but right here, the reason why I wanted to talk about this first paragraph is because there's actually a little tidbit of a plot right here. While the sequence is full of potential spoilers about the titular Lost Kingdom and the mysterious and powerful Black Trident, Kidman is actually referring to the weather. So you're talking about an interview that he did with Kidman. So October 2021 was the last time Clark Collis was on set, and he did an interview with some of the cast, and he just talked with James Wan. And this is the follow up interview two years later, almost 2 full years later. They basically go into some of the issues they had with filming because of COVID delays, bad weather in the UK. But the film features, like I mentioned, Jason Momoa, Nicole Kidman, Patrick Wilson, Amber Heard, Dolph Lundgren, and yeah, let's see what else we get into. This is what James Wan had to say about making the film and a lot of the delays. The movie went from December 2022 to March 2023 to now December 2023, which is in a few months. This is what he said, James Wan. Making movies is tough enough. Making a massive tentpole film is even harder. Throw on top of that a life threatening pandemic just takes it to a whole different level, he says. But we've been shooting for a while now and it's been pretty smooth process. And they get into the whole thing of going on with the Flash. Um, so we know this film was actually supposed to get released before the Flash, and this is spoilers for the Flash. If you haven't seen it, if you're watching this and you have or you haven't, if you don't care, then all right. Um, the Flash is supposed to be sort of like the soft reboot for the DCEU going into the DCU. So Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, it has actors and characters from the DCEU. So I'm sure it was kind of confusing for some people who were filming this. That like, okay, we're making a movie with these characters, but the universe has already been reset. Where do we take place in this? And James Wan has pretty much said throughout this article, and we'll get into it more throughout, that this is his story. This is a story that he wants to tell. He understands the changes that happened with the regime change of James Gunn and Peter Safran, but through and through, this is the film that he wanted to make, even with all the changes that happened over the last few years. Um, let's see. This is what This is kind of like a metaphor that he used talking about the change. This is what excuse me, not James Gunn, James Wan. He said, obviously, I have to be mindful. If I'm living in a house and the house is getting renovated around me, it's hard for me to not take notice because the ceiling's missing, right? But the beauty of this movie, the Aquaman world, is that very early on, we've always said that we're on our own separate universe. My goal was always, if we can spin off a Seven Kingdoms universe, that would be my ideal dream. So what would we do? Ultimately, it doesn't affect. So what we do ultimately doesn't get affected by all the stuff and all that noise. Um, so we know that a lot of people online, which they have the right to, they're just saying that I don't care about this movie. It's not canon to the DCEU. It's not gonna most likely be canon to the DCU. Why should we care? The reason why I care is because I absolutely love the first Aquaman. I think it's whimsical. I think the action is amazing. Jason Momoa was a great lead, and I think they just had a sort of like a coming of age in a way, even though Jason Momoa, the Arthur Curry, was already in his 30s. It's sort of like a coming of age story. We see Arthur Curry, who rejected being king of Atlantis, who rejected his royal blood, who rejected Orm, who rejected that whole family because of what they did to his mother. We ultimately see him become the king of the seven seas. We see him become the king of Atlantis. So I think this movie is going to definitely sort of carry that mantra of Arthur Curry sort of being who he is, being sort of like in a way torpedoing towards situations. He's the spear of he's the tip of the spear of the spear. I think I said that right. Speaking of some types of spears and some tridents, this is Yahya Abdul Mateen II as Black Manta holding the Black Trident. So they actually get into the Black Trident and what it ultimately does. So right here, this is the a plot point that they do discuss. I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. He said, "A vengeance sinking and now hugely powerful supervillain in possession of the Black Trident, which gives him the ability to command an ancient evil." And at the end of Aquaman, Arthur defeated his scheming half brother Orm and became the king of Atlantis, while Wilson's character was led away in prison, which we did see Orm. And we're gonna see exactly what happened to Orm. When I finished the movie, when you watch Aquaman, you see him get escorted into the waters. The tide takes him away, and that's the last time we see Orm. I've always been under the impression that he escaped those guards that were holding him captive. He escaped. He killed those guards. He just got out of there, and he's plotting his revenge. But apparently, he actually did go to prison. They actually were able to take him to Atlantis and just put him under bars because of his crimes that he did. Um, Attacking his own people and blaming it on the surface, the way he calls the surface dwellers. Um, And this is what he had to say about Peter Safran, that him and Peter Safran obviously have a great relationship. Safran is the producer, and he understands that Safran obviously is now the co-head of DC Studios. So he understands, the changes that are going to be coming, whether or not it's going to affect him. He said he doesn't know as of right now, but we shall see. This is something that I really, really enjoyed about this article. So he talks about a film, in a Eddie Murphy film that I have yet to see. Sorry, Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte, the 1982 action comedy classic, 48 Hours. They're forced to work together, but they have no interest in with being together. And it's sort of the same thing that's going to be between Arthur and Orm. That Arthur and Orm, they don't like each other. They don't. Orm committed crimes against his people. Arthur is now the king, which Orm was trying to be, or which he was, but he wanted to continue to be king. And He wanted to be the ocean master who commanded all the seven seas and the kingdoms and everything. But that obviously that plan foiled because of Arthur and what he did to stop him. And Orm and Arthur, they're half brothers, and their relationship is sort of it was rocky because of what happened with their mother kind of divided them. And also they had just different views on the surface, the people who live on the surface. Arthur obviously is half Atlantean, half human. So he grew up human. He didn't grow up Atlantean. Even though he had training from Willem Dafoe's character, whose the name was escaping me. Um, Orm is full on Atlantean, doesn't care for people on the surface, and he just wants to destroy them. So now that we're going to see them working together to try to stop Black Manta. I am curious how that dynamic's going to be. I really am. Like, I think that's going to be the main focal point of this film. He said that actually we'll get into what he said about the relationship between Orm and Arthur when he talks about Mira. Um, but right here he gets into the stuff going on with the Batmans. The Hollywood Reporter published an article in July of this year about the film's allegedly torturous post production. The piece claimed that Wan had overseen 3 rounds of reshoots, the most recent taking place just a month before, and had been forced to separately film footage of Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton for a planned appearance by Batman in the film because of the changes at Warner Brothers release slate. So we did see a footage, or excuse me, a photo with Jason Momoa and Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck was, dressed up as Bruce Wayne. So when they posted the image, we already knew that they were filming a scene with Ben Affleck's Batman. And although we never saw an actual image of Michael Keaton on the set of Aquaman or with, Jason Momoa or James Wan or anybody like that, it was reported that they did film a Michael Keaton Batman scene. So since the Flash and the ending of that, they essentially, from my understanding, scrapped the Ben Affleck scene and pretty much scrapped the Michael Keaton scene as well. Apparently, the Ben Affleck Batman appearance was supposed to retcon the Michael Keaton appearance, that Michael Keaton wasn't even going to appear in Aquaman. But with the changes and everything that's going on at DC, or that's already happened, I think they're not going to have any Batman, which he gets asked about in a little bit. He said, when asked of the truth of filming to both Ben Affleck and Keaton, this is Wan's reply. The tricky thing early on was not knowing whether Aquaman would come out first or come out after The Flash. So we just had to be prepared. At the end of the day, the best thing I can say about this movie is that it is not connected in any way to those films. That's the bottom line. And Stone Cold said so. Ben Affleck, Keaton, and Momoa all had appearances in The Flash, which was in theaters in June. So this is what the interviewer asked him. So Batman does not appear in Aquaman 2. Juan responded, "That's a no comment right now. You're gonna have to wait for the movie to come out." So I'm just going just off of a hunch. Who knows? Maybe Ben Affleck does have a scene. It wouldn't make sense, at least in the timeline and canon wise, because it's coming out after Flash. If Barry Allen sort of reset the timeline, why would there be the Ben Affleck appearance? And then at the same time for the Michael Keaton appearance, at the end of Flash, his Bruce Wayne is George Clooney. So why would it be Michael Keaton as well? What I think they should just do is just scrap both Batman scenes, have zero connections to any DCEU and or DCU depending on what they're going to do with that going forward, and just have it be an Aquaman movie. The first one had no appearances, no cameos, none of the Justice League members, no other characters or DCEU characters besides the people in the Aquaman world appeared in that. I don't think it's necessary to have anybody from the DCEU appear in Aquaman 2. So we shall shall see. Right here, he talked about his relationship with James Gunn. He said, "I've known James Gunn way back. We're horror guys, and so we definitely, I'm definitely open to the ideas. The ideas being James Gunn's notes about the movie, and then James Wan said, but at the end of the day, this is my movie, which it is. It's his story. It's his vision. He's the director. He should be able to, tell the story that he wants to tell." And then obviously James Gunn, being the head of the studio, has every right to give his notes and tell James, hey, or tell Juan, hey, um, this character, we have something planned for them in the future. Can you not have them in here? Or hey, this timeline kind of messes what we're doing over here, or vice versa. Things like that. James Wan could probably tell James Gunn, "Hey, I want to include this character. There plans for this character in the future, him or her?" So it's not officially confirmed whether or not Aquaman is going to continue in the DCU. I think that's a lot of people's biggest question. A lot of people have the testament of, if you're not having the Trinity of Godot, Affleck, and Cavill, why would you keep Ezra? Why would you keep Momoa? Um, I don't know. Maybe this Aquaman becomes Elseworld, because personally I love Aquaman movie. I love that world. I love what James Wan created. So if I'm being, hypocritical about, I'm fine with the Trinity being let go and not Jason Momoa, then that's just my opinion. Um, I think if at the end of the day, I think they should just reset everything, even though that sucks. Letting go of Momoa's Aquaman. I think Momoa's going to continue to be in the DCU, even if that is Aquaman or not. He's already shown that he's had meetings with James Gunn and Peter Safran. He said they went amazing. He left the building literally screaming of joy because of how well those meetings went. So, I think everything's pointing to him continuing to be in the DCU, but what is that character? We don't know. Right here, he just goes on to say that there's been breaks in shootings and schedules, that the shooting schedule was in chunks, that they did there, this actors, they just have busy schedules, so they shot in chunks, and then the multiple reshoots were a testament, excuse not a testament, excuse me, were part of the original schedule, which who knows, he's not gonna straight out say, yeah, we screwed up in some of these scenes, we had to redo them. He's not gonna say that, nor should he say that. um But right here, he just goes about his success in other films, The Conjuring, The Nun. Right here, he gets into the whole Amber Heard thing. This paragraph is about the actual trial, which I don't want to get into. But this is what he had to say about actual Amber Heard. He said, "I always pitch this." Okay, so there was reports coming up that her role was very minimalized because of that went on with her trial with Johnny Depp. This is what he had to say. "I always pitch this to everyone from the get go. The first Aquaman was Arthur and Mura's journey," which it was. It was how they became, a couple. "The second movie was always going to be an Arthur and Orm. So the first movie was a romance action adventure. The second one is a bromance action adventure movie. We'll leave it at that." And when it comes to the bromance thing, I love that. Ralph and I, obviously brothers. We're gonna go see this day one. I think we're just absolutely gonna love that dynamic that they have off of Orm and Arthur. So I think that's it's gonna be really really dope. Um, he just goes into the what happened to him. He went to the ER. He said it wasn't movie related. It was just some personal stuff. This is Jason Momoa talking about Dune, which is nothing related to this. Let's see, what else does he get into? Oh, he said, having shown the film to a few people by the time of EW's conversation, Juan notes the feedback has routinely been that the film doesn't feel like any typical superhero. It feels like an old school Ray Harryhausen movie. He notes that's the biggest compliment because that's the spirit that I was going for. You know, right here actually is okay. So in in the teaser, we see this image of this Octobot carry. It picks up Orm right here. I don't know if this is before or after he jumps away from it, but actually this is called the Octobot. And if you remember from the first movie Aquaman, the Lost Kingdom was Atlantis before the original king, overdid it with the power source he was using, which sunk the whole city, which is now known as the Lost Kingdom. This Octobot is from that kingdom. So we're going to be seeing technology from that world, from that time, and how they're going to be using it in this one. Okay, this paragraph right here, Is my legit my favorite part of the article. I'm just gonna read the whole thing, just real quick. He said one of the funniest things for me about the movie is designing the Lost Kingdom. He says we see that the Lost Kingdom is we see the society, and within it we see the vehicles and the toys and the weapons and all that. The Octobot is one of the traveling vehicles that move in and out of the water. Okay, now this right here. Everything about the Lost Kingdom came from my love from the Silver Age Aquaman comics, which is the 1960 books. So everything about it has a very retro feel. I love that. I love, but I think my favorite thing is Aquaman's suit. Really, like honestly. And I think to capture that on the screen, that bright orange, those green, deep sea green type of pants, seaweed color green pants. I think it looks great. The armor and everything. So right here we get to confirm that Arthur's steed is Storm, whose first appearance with Aquaman back in the mid 60s. He just goes on that Torpo right here. It actually appears in the film. Obviously, this is from the actual from the teaser. We'll see the trailer tomorrow, which we will do. We will be doing a reaction to. Um, and this he gets it gets into a bit of Arthur's story. What I like about between this one and the first one is you really do see the growth of Arthur. He starts off as this kind of wanderer, and in the second one, he finally has a more of direction what he wants to do with his life. So he obviously this is Arthur's story, and what James Wan noted is that he does leave a setup for a third movie. He said he has a plan, or he doesn't have like a story, but he said that he does for sure have these characters, and the journey they go on kind of leads him into a third story, sort of like a trilogy. When asked if he would direct the movie, said, "I don't know. This film has taken so much of my life and so much of my time. All I can think about is now taking a long break somewhere not too close to the ocean, perhaps." Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom released in theaters. Will be released in theaters December 20th. So, my overall thoughts on this James Wan interview. First, I think as of right now, you know what? As I'm thinking about it, I'm curious on why haven't they come out and sort of confirmed it being part of the DCU? If they wanted it to be a part of the DCU, wouldn't they just say that just so it can at least add some connection to the future movies? So it would at least sort of reassure some people like, hey, this movie is not a waste of time. Even though it's not going to be a waste of time because it looks like a great action superhero movie. I think if they do plan on keeping Aquaman, just come out and say it already. And maybe I don't know. I'm curious now that I think about it. Maybe Aquaman's not going to continue. Maybe this is the end of his story. And why would James Wan? He has no obligations to say, "Yeah, this is the last Jason Momoa Aquaman movie." Why would he do that? Honestly, I think because of the way people's minds are wired now, all these stories have to continue for 15 years because the way the MCU is. So he has no reason to come out. It would hurt him if he came out and said, "Yeah, just this is the last Jason Momoa Aquaman movie." It would hurt the movie. I think it would. Um, so I think overall, I think he said what he had to say. He was able to pinpoint exactly the questions that people had on whether or not this movie is canon to the DCU. He said zero connections. He said it plain and simple. There's zero connections to those films. So there's going to be zero connections to the Flash and the events over there. So I think it was a very, very interesting article that was released today, obviously before the trailer comes out tomorrow. So for tomorrow, when the trailer drops, Ralph and I we will definitely be doing a trailer reaction the instant it drops. So please keep an eye out for that. Please like, share, and subscribe if you'd like to. Turn on those notifications if you want to check out our reaction tomorrow, the first thing when it comes out. But yeah, if you're still watching this, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. But that's pretty much it, guys. That's all I want to talk about right now. I'm just hyped for this movie. I'm beyond hyped for this movie. I just want to watch it already. Um, I want to see it today. But we have a few months. Tomorrow's the trailer, so we finally get a full length trailer, have an idea of what the story is going to be. See some more Black Manta. Black Manta is an absolute badass. We get to see Arthur Curry, Aquaman. So as always, guys, I'm Chris, Until next time, peace.